YouTube, what's up, baby? Back in this thing again for another review. This is Q's Insight. I'm Callie, and today we're going to be talking about American Horror Stories, Season 2, Episode 2, entitled Aura. Alright, now if you've been to this channel before, you already know how we do it. We started off with the premise, 3 favorite scenes, the grade, and then we on to the next one, right? So, again, American Horror Stories, Season 2, Episode 2, entitled Aura. So, for this episode, we started off with a commercial, and it's a commercial for this this thing called Aura. And what it basically is, when it comes down to it, if we were talking about it in this reality, this world, you know what I'm saying, real life, Aura would be considered the little ringer or the ring type of thing that they have on doors, where someone can ring the doorbell, but then there's a camera there so you can see who was there. So that's basically what the Aura is for this episode. So anyways, we get the commercial for Aura. We're introduced to the main character, Jaslyn, and she's there at this, like, I don't know if it's like I don't know what it is, like a supermarket or just like something equivalent to like a like Best Buy, something like that. But she's thinking about getting the Aura for a certain reason, and we find out later on, and she does end up buying it. And then we end up seeing that she lives at this gated community, and there's also security there. So not only does she have a gated community to be behind, also security to patrol the area, but now she's getting the ringer. I'm sorry, not a ringer. She's getting the Aura, which is like a ringer. So we see Jaslyn basically talking to her husband, Bryce, about the Aura purchase. And he's like, yo, we moved to this gated community. There's security here. Why is it that you feel like, the Aura was necessary purchase? But we end up finding out that, she is affected. She has trauma due to an event that occurred to her earlier on in her life when she was younger. So we find out as a kid that somebody had ran into her house and basically, let her live but killed her parents, per se. So this is the reason why she wants Aura, beyond the fact of being behind a gated community and having security there. So anyways, the next day comes, and Jaslyn and her husband are fixing up their new place. And we see someone is at Jaslyn's door. He says that, I'm here for the home invasion, da 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 da. And it's obviously just Bryce, and they're just basically trying to see if the Aura works. So, after that, he ends up getting called for a meeting for his job, so he has to go there. And Jaslyn stays back, and she has like this sales website where she sells like jewelry and whatnot online. So she's starting to do that while he's gone on the computer. And then she gets a notification from her phone that someone's at her door. But then no one is there. So she goes back into the house after having like a scare, per se, thinking that somebody's outside her house. And also, when she went outside, she saw a raccoon, so it scared her. But anyways, she goes back in. Some time passes, and she goes upstairs to brush her teeth, and she gets another notification that someone is at her door. And this time there is someone at her door. It's like an old man, and the guy knows her name, and he's like asking her to let him in, and it's cold out here, whatever it may be, but she says no to opening up the door, and she also says that she'll call the cops if he doesn't leave. The guy keeps on insisting for her to let him in, so she ends up calling the cops. The cops get there, her husband gets there, and we see that everything is okay, everything is fine. So their neighbor comes by and says he has a camera that faces towards their house so he can look at the footage and you can see, like, if there was somebody there. So they cut on the footage and the old guy is never there. He's never present at her door. And so it makes her look like she's crazy, you know what I'm saying, especially with what went down like as a child. You know what I'm saying? This makes it seem like she's just kind of, losing it. It's a new house. Her husband was gone. She'd been through a home invasion before. Her parents got killed, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she, hallucinated or something like that, you know? Um, so she talks to Bryce about everything, and then um, he makes her like feel better about the situation because at first she's like feeling bad about everything and how she looks, but he makes her feel better about the situation. The next day comes and they're having dinner, and she gets notification from the aura again, and the old guy is at the door again. So being that Bryce is there, she shows Bryce the phone, and you're thinking, oh, this is probably just something that only she can see. But no, Bryce actually sees the guy on the aura phone. I'm sorry, on the phone. Um, and so he's like, yo, like, who are you? Da da da. And he's not talking to him, but he gives the phone back to Jaslyn, and then the dude starts talking to Jaslyn. So then he takes the phone back, and he's like, yo, like, you better get out of here, whatever it may be. And so what ends up happening is he's about to go outside and confront the guy. Jaslyn is like, no, just stay here, whatever, we're good. So Bryce ends up actually calling the neighbor and talks to him and tells him, hey, look at your camera, see if you can see somebody standing outside the door. The guy looks at the camera, and there's nobody outside the door. So Bryce ends up coming up with this idea that maybe someone has hacked their ringer camera and is making it seem like there's somebody outside the door when there's really not. Um, but Jaslyn doesn't believe that is the case, because she heard, the dude's voice outside of the door, and also she saw the door handle jiggle. So she's like, you can't imagine that. They can't do that. They may be able to hack our stuff and put an image there, but they can't do that. Um. So, anyways, Jaslyn ends up looking up like pranks the next day, as far as like people doing that to them, people doing that to people that have the aura. Um. That is, but so, anyways, Bryce is still not on the same page as her as far as thinking that there's actually somebody there. So the next day, I'm sorry. She ends up remembering that there's a guy named Mr. Hendricks that she used to. It was like a janitor that she used to see at her school. Her and her friends will always make fun of this guy. One day, she ended up saying hi to him and like saying, just being nice to him. And then all of a sudden, this fool like really fell in love with her and was always looking at her every time he saw her and just staring at her and just trying to be nice. You know what I'm saying? Doing all these other extra things. So she's like, the guy reminds me of Mr. Hendricks. And then, like I said, Bryce is still not on the same page. He's still thinking that, this is a prank or whatever it may be. Someone just pranking us. So, anyways, the next day, um, she goes to Mr. Hendricks' sister's house, and she asks the sister, like, hey, we're having it. She's pretending this so she can get information that she needs. She's like, hey, we're having a school reunion. We wanted to invite Mr. Hendricks. Do you know where he's at? Or whatever like that. And the sister's like, no, I haven't seen him. Like, after he quit working at the school, he did come live with me, but I haven't seen him for like 2 weeks or so, whatever. So, um, Jaslyn is like, you know what? Do you maybe have like a picture of him? Because we want to put it in the reunion book. And so the lady believes her. She gets the picture. She sees the picture, and it is the old man that she sees outside the door. So now she knows that this is Mr. Hendricks, outside the door whenever she is getting this notification from the Aura app. Um. So she ends up leaving. And She goes home, and then when she's there, she gets a notification that someone is at her door, and she sees Mr. Hendricks again. So he tries to get her to open the door. At first, she's like, nah. But then eventually, she's like, you know what? Forget it. I'm gonna open the door. So she opens up the door, and no one is there. So she closes the door, and then when she closes the door, she sees that he's at her like dinner table. So it's like, that's weird because she opened the door, nobody was there, you didn't see nobody walk in. She closes the door, and all of a sudden he's just at her dinner table. That's like, it's kind of supernatural. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, he tells her that I did want to come in and tell you something, but that's not all. I lied to you, and you're thinking like, oh, this fool's about to come and kill her or something like that. But he's like, no, I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry for the way that I made you feel when you were at school. When you said hi to me a long time ago, I convinced myself that I loved you, and I shouldn't have done that, and I made you feel uncomfortable, and I'm really sorry about that. And so since he apologizes, she comes clean and she's like, you know what, me and my friends used to make fun of you, and I just remember like that was really a bad thing to do. I wasn't the greatest kid at school, and I'm sorry for doing that as well. So he starts crying, but when he's crying blood, and all of a sudden he just bursts into dust and just fades away. So obviously, she handled that situation, I guess, the correct way. So, anyways, Bryce ends up coming home, but she doesn't tell him about the situation that happened with Mr. Hendricks. And then all of a sudden, they get a notification on their aura, and it's saying that there's somebody there. So she looks at the aura, and it's this girl there, and she's like, I'm lost. I don't know how I got here. I was at a park, and then all of a sudden, I was here, all this stuff like that. And so, since she kind of has an inkling of like, what this situation is about, she is kind of open to more to like settling the situation rather than before just not being bothered with it at all. So anyway, she tries to get Bryce, and she's like, yo, do you know this lady or whatever? And Bryce ends up getting like super mad, and it's like, yo, like, why are you mad like that? You know what I'm saying? He's like, I don't know her, and I'm sick of this aura thing, and we're just gonna get rid of it. So he takes it and he throws it away. And so Jaslyn is like, you're acting a little too angry about someone that you don't know. Like, you must know something. You feel me? So the next day, she does some research. She finds out that this lady did die at a park. So she goes to the park and she sees that there's like a memorial bench there, and her name is engraved into the bench. And she looks up like exactly what happened. And what happened was it was a hit and run. She got hit by somebody, and the person just sped off and left. So she's thinking that possibly her husband could have been the one that did it, Bryce. She looks down and she finds out the person that hit her, and it's not Bryce. So she's like, all right, cool, whatever. But still, she's still thinking like, he was acting weird. Like, what I'm saying? There's something a little off about that. So she ends up coming back home. Bryce is there. She ends up talking to Bryce about like, hey, like, you need to tell me like what's really going on. Like, you shouldn't have been really bothered the way that you were about the situation. If you didn't know her, you didn't know her. Tell me what's going on. And like, it takes a while because he's just like, no, like, I didn't do nothing, no. And then the lady comes to the door again. And so Jaslyn's like, you know what, like, tell me what happened, or else I'm gonna ask her. And so he ends up coming clean, and he's like, look, like, that used to be my first fiance. Things didn't work out right with us, and one day she ended up getting hit by this car, and she ended up dying or whatever. And so we're like, oh, okay, well, I guess so, whatever. So anyways, for some reason, Jaslyn opens up the door and lets the girl in, and then the girl all of a sudden is holding a baby in her hand, and then she's talking to Bryce, and she's like, are you gonna tell her the real story about what happened? And then like eventually, after her saying that so many times, he ends up telling her the real story. And what really happened was that they were both at the park that night. They had an argument and they were going to be splitting up, but she told him that that she was pregnant, and he was like, this wasn't part of my plan and everything like that, and I didn't want to go out with her no more. So we find out that as they were arguing, he sees a car, incoming car coming in their direction. And so he grabs her and he's kind of like shaking her or whatever, and he lets her go once the car passes by. The car runs her over, and then the car stops for a second, looks out for a second, and then just speeds off. So that's how that happened. But then the story continues. He walks up to her. She's begging him for help because she's bleeding out. Her her legs are broken, whatever it may be, and he knows that she's pregnant. You know what I'm saying? But this for him is a perfect opportunity to be able to get rid of her and to be able to get rid of the baby, because he said this wasn't part of his plan. So he walks up to her. She's begging for help. He puts his foot on her neck and then steps on it and ends up killing her all the way through. And then after that, he's like, well, she wasn't part of the plan and the baby wasn't part of the plan. And then he tells Jasmine, like, now that you know what really happened, you're not part of the plan either. So he ends up taking this like poker and he's about to go try to kill Jasmine. But all of a sudden he ends up like choking and he ends up basically dying. And when he dies, his body turns into dust, kind of like how, Mr. Hendricks did. So anyways, after that, Jasmine ends up moving to a new apartment, and when she gets there, the one of like the people, one of like the it's probably like the manager or whatever, but like he's like, yo, everything's good. I hope you're feeling good and everything is safe and everything like that. By the way, we installed the aura on your door, and she's like, no, I didn't ask for no aura. Like, I don't want the aura, none of that. And he's like, look, every apartment in this complex has a aura on the door, and it's a way to make sure that everything is good. So she's like, all right, whatever. So he ends up leaving, and then like 5 seconds later, she gets a notification from her aura that somebody's there. And who is it? It's Bryce. And he's like, let me in, da 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 da. And you know that he wants to kill her, whatever it may be. But she obviously doesn't let him in. And that's how the story ends. Three of my favorite scenes would be Hendrix' apology to her and her coming clean to Hendrix, and him just being able to move on, because we end up finding out that he did end up dying. He ended up killing himself in like a river or something like that, and that's why his sister didn't know where he was. And it's basically like one of those situations where how they say, like, somebody may die and they haven't like come clean about stuff or whatever it may be, and their spirit may be trapped here. So that's why when she apologized and he apologized, he was able to be free and leave this plane of Earth. So that was pretty cool. My second favorite scene would be Bryce killing his fiance, bro. Like, that was a brutal scene, and just the way that it's like, you think you know what happened, nope. You think you know what happened, nope. Now you know what happened, Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So that was my second favorite scene. My third favorite scene would be the fiance actually killing Bryce, because she exacted her revenge for her and her unborn child. So yeah, that would be three of my favorite scenes. The grade for this, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Man, definitely was not a bad episode at all. Hey, American Horror Stories, congratulations, baby. Y'all doing way better than y'all did last season. And I'm saying, let me preference American Horror Stories. Y'all doing better than y'all did in the first season. Like, your first 2 episodes are strong right off the back, man, and I'm definitely here for it, and I can't wait for the next episode. If you guys saw the episode, let me know what you guys thought about it, all right, in the comments down below. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. As always, this is Q's Insight. I am Callie. Until next time.